There are moments when a woman notices your age before she notices your smile. Not because she's counting years, but because she's quietly asking herself a question she may never say out loud. Who are you, really? That question has very little to do with the number itself, and somehow, most men spend years answering the wrong question. Before we go any further, if these conversations help you understand people, and maybe even understand yourself a little better, consider subscribing. It helps this channel reach men who have been trying to make sense of feelings that rarely get talked about. Now, imagine you're sitting across from her. Maybe it's a coffee shop, maybe it's after work. The conversation is easy, easier than you expected. She laughs, not the polite kind, the kind that slips out before she realizes it. Then, almost without thinking, she asks, "So, how old are you?" The room doesn't change, but something inside you does. If you're younger, your stomach tightens. If you're older, you hesitate for half a second before answering. It's strange, isn't it? One simple question, yet it carries so much weight. Because you're not wondering what she'll think of your age. You're wondering what your age makes her imagine about you. And those are very different things. Many men assume women judge age the way people judge height or income, as if it's a score, a fixed number. But people rarely experience other people that way, especially when attraction begins. Often, age becomes a story before it becomes a fact. She isn't only hearing your number, she's imagining the life behind it, the mistakes, the confidence, the fears, the possibilities, maybe even the future. Without realizing it, both of you are filling in empty spaces with assumptions. That's something our minds naturally do, not because we're trying to be unfair, because uncertainty makes people uncomfortable, so the brain rushes to finish the picture. Sometimes it's completely wrong. There was a man I once spoke with who couldn't understand why every conversation seemed to end after women learned he was 10 years older. He believed the number scared them away. "I should have lied," he said quietly. But then he remembered something. Before telling his age, he had already apologized for it. Little jokes, little comments. "I'm probably too old for this. You probably want someone younger." He thought he was making her comfortable. Instead, he handed her a reason to doubt something she hadn't even questioned. Confidence is strange like that. People don't always react to the fact. They react to how you carry it. Now, don't misunderstand this. Sometimes age really does matter. Life stages matter. Goals matter. Timing matters. Someone wanting children soon may think differently than someone who doesn't. Someone building a career may see relationships differently than someone who's ready to settle down. None of that is wrong. It simply means attraction isn't happening in a vacuum. Life comes with it. But there's something almost nobody notices. Sometimes what makes a woman hesitate has nothing to do with whether you're older or younger. It's whether you seem comfortable inside your own season of life. You can almost feel the difference. One man is 38, yet every sentence sounds like he's trying to prove he's still 23. Another is 26, yet he listens with a calmness that makes people forget his age after 5 minutes. Which one feels older? Which one feels safer? Interesting question, isn't it? Because emotional age and calendar age don't always travel together. You've probably met people who were exhausted by 25, and others who felt quietly alive at 55. Women notice that, not always consciously, but they notice. They notice how you respond when plans change, how you treat waiters, how you talk about your past, whether every old relationship was somehow someone else's fault, whether silence makes you uncomfortable. Tiny things. Things that never appear on dating profiles. Most men spend years trying to look younger, or older, depending on what they think women want. Meanwhile, the thing she's quietly studying has been sitting right in front of her the entire time. And once you see what that is, you'll never think about age in quite the same way again. There's a moment that almost never gets talked about. It happens after the first impression, after the jokes, after the easy conversation, when she goes home. The room is quiet now. She's no longer reacting to your smile or your voice. She's replaying them. And this is where something interesting begins. Many men imagine she's thinking, he's too old, or he's too young. Sometimes that happens, but in many cases, her thoughts sound much more human than that. Why did I feel so comfortable around him? Why did he stay in my mind? Why did that conversation feel different? Feelings have a way of confusing us when they don't match our expectations. She may have told herself she only dates men her own age, or that she wants someone older or younger. Then she meets someone who quietly breaks the rules she made for herself. That can create an uncomfortable kind of tension. Not because she's rejecting you, because she's trying to understand herself. You've probably experienced something similar. You meet someone who doesn't fit your type. Yet somehow, you keep thinking about them. You almost wish you weren't. The mind likes simple rules. The heart, not so much. That's why attraction often feels messy. Not dramatic, just messy. And when age is involved, that inner conversation becomes even more complicated. Imagine she's talking with a close friend. Not the version she shows everyone, the honest version. She says, "He's younger than I expected." Her friend raises an eyebrow. "And?" She pauses. "I don't know." Notice those words. I don't know. Those 4 words are important because uncertainty isn't rejection, it's uncertainty. Many men panic the moment they sense hesitation. They rush to fix it. They explain themselves. They try harder. They become funnier, more impressive, more available, without realizing they're responding to a question that hasn't even been answered yet. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for another person is allow uncertainty to breathe. People often need time to discover what they actually feel. Pressure rarely speeds that process up. It usually interrupts it. There's another detail that's easy to miss. Women, like men, are aware of how relationships are viewed by other people. Family, friends, co-workers, even strangers. An older woman dating a younger man, a younger woman dating someone much older. People notice, people comment, sometimes kindly, sometimes not. Even confident people can feel the weight of those outside opinions. Not because they believe them, but because nobody enjoys feeling judged. This doesn't mean she cares more about others than about you. It simply means she's human. And humans are social creatures. We imagine conversations before they happen. We picture the questions, the sideways glances, the awkward jokes. She may wonder what her parents would think. Her children, if she has them. Her friends. She may even feel embarrassed for worrying about those things. That conflict can be surprisingly quiet. She still smiles when she sees your message. She still wants to know how your day went. Yet another part of her whispers, "Is this a mistake?" Both feelings can exist together. That's something many men overlook. They believe mixed emotions mean hidden rejection. Often, mixed emotions simply mean she's trying to balance desire with reality. There's a difference, and that difference changes everything. I remember a man telling me about a woman who seemed warm one week, then distant the next. He became convinced she'd lost interest. He stopped texting, pulled away, decided to protect his pride before she could reject him. Months later, they happened to meet again. She admitted something he'd never imagined. "I thought you lost interest." He stared at her. "You disappeared." "So did you." Silence. 2 people, each waiting for reassurance, each assuming the other had already decided. It's remarkable how often relationships drift apart, not because feelings disappear, but because fear quietly fills the empty spaces where honest conversation could have lived. Of course, not every story ends that way. Sometimes people truly realize they're incompatible. Different goals, different stages, different dreams. And accepting that can be an act of emotional maturity, not failure. But sometimes, the distance between 2 people isn't created by age at all. It's created by imagination. Stories neither of them ever says out loud. And those invisible stories become even more powerful when one person starts believing they have to earn love, instead of simply allowing themselves to be known. That's where the conversation inside her mind begins to change in ways most men never notice. There's a quiet habit many men have. Most of them don't even realize they're doing it. The moment they believe there's an age difference, they stop showing who they are. Instead, they start performing. The younger man tries to sound older. He becomes unusually serious, careful with every word. He avoids joking because he wants to seem mature. He measures every sentence before speaking. Without meaning to, he begins acting like someone who's applying for approval instead of getting to know another person. The older man often goes in the opposite direction. He starts proving he's still young. He mentions the gym every chance he gets, talks about how little sleep he needs, laughs a little too loudly, keeps reminding everyone he can still keep up. Neither man is being dishonest. They're simply afraid. Afraid that their real selves won't be enough. And fear has a strange way of making people disappear behind a version of themselves they think will be easier to love. Women often sense this before they can explain it. Not because they're reading minds, because authenticity has a feeling. You've probably felt it too. You meet someone who's saying all the right things, yet somehow something feels rehearsed. Nothing is technically wrong, but nothing feels completely real either. Then you meet someone else. He pauses before answering, sometimes laughs at himself, sometimes admits he doesn't know something. He's relaxed. Not perfect, just present. And somehow you trust him more. That isn't magic. It's what often happens when someone isn't fighting to control every impression they make. Here's something worth sitting with for a moment. Confidence isn't usually loud. It doesn't rush. It doesn't chase every second of silence. It doesn't panic because someone took 3 hours to reply. Real confidence often looks surprisingly ordinary. You see it in little moments. She asks your age. You answer. Then you keep talking about the story you were already telling. No dramatic explanation, no apology, no joke about being too old, no comment about being just a kid. You simply leave the number where it belongs, as information, not identity. That tiny response communicates something deeper than most people realize. It quietly says, "I'm comfortable with who I am." That kind of comfort is difficult to fake, because it shows up everywhere, in the way you handle disagreement, in how you accept compliments, even in the way you walk into a room. Now, this doesn't mean confidence guarantees attraction. Life is more complicated than that. People want different things. Some connections grow, others don't. But emotional steadiness has a way of making people feel safe enough to discover what they actually feel. Safety is often underestimated. Many people think attraction is built only on excitement. The butterflies, the mystery, the spark. Those things matter. But if excitement is all that's there, it burns fast. Think about the people you felt most comfortable around. Not the ones who impressed you for 5 minutes. The ones whose presence made your shoulders relax. The ones who never made you feel like every word was being judged. That feeling is easy to overlook because it isn't dramatic. Yet over time, it becomes incredibly valuable. Some women notice this after a few conversations. Others notice it months later. One evening she catches herself telling you something she's never told anyone else. She stops halfway, looks at you, almost surprised by her own honesty. She wasn't planning to open up, it just happened. Trust often grows that way, quietly, without announcements, without fireworks. Then something unexpected enters the picture. Doubt. Not yours, hers. Because closeness can feel exciting, but it can also feel risky, especially when the relationship doesn't fit the image she once imagined for herself. Maybe she always pictured someone closer to her age. Maybe she assumed an older partner would understand her better. Maybe she promised herself she'd never date someone younger again. Or older again. Life has a funny habit of introducing people who don't match the stories we tell ourselves. And that's uncomfortable. Not because the connection isn't real, because real connections sometimes force us to rewrite old beliefs. That rewriting takes courage, and courage rarely feels confident in the moment. It usually feels uncertain, almost fragile, which leads to one of the biggest misunderstandings men make. When she becomes quieter, when she seems more thoughtful, When she suddenly needs a little space, many men immediately assume the connection is fading. Sometimes, the opposite is happening. Sometimes she's standing at the edge of a decision she never expected to face. And what she chooses next depends far less on your age than on one emotional question she may not even realize she's asking herself. That question isn't, is he older, or is he younger? It's much quieter than that. Who am I becoming when I'm with him? People rarely fall in love with numbers. They often fall in love with the version of themselves that begins to appear in someone else's presence. That's why two relationships can look almost identical from the outside, yet feel completely different from the inside. A woman can spend years with someone who checks every logical box. Similar age, similar background, similar plans. Everything makes sense. Yet she feels strangely alone. Not because he is a bad man, because she doesn't feel fully seen. Then, unexpectedly, she meets someone whose life looks completely different from what she imagined. The age gap catches her attention, maybe even worries her, but something else catches her heart. She notices that she laughs more. She notices that she speaks more honestly. She notices that she doesn't spend the entire evening wondering if she's saying the right thing. That's not something people usually expect. Comfort doesn't always arrive wearing familiar clothes. Sometimes it arrives disguised as the very thing you thought would never work. But don't misunderstand this. Comfort isn't enough on its own. A relationship also needs honesty. It needs respect. It needs two people who are willing to talk about uncomfortable things instead of pretending they don't exist. Age differences can bring real questions. Different energy levels, different life experiences, different goals. Sometimes different expectations about family, career, or the future. Ignoring those conversations doesn't make them disappear. It only delays them. Emotionally mature people usually understand this. They don't rush those talks on the first date, but they don't avoid them forever either. Because avoiding difficult conversations often creates bigger problems than the conversations themselves. I've noticed something else over the years. The men who worry most about age often become so focused on proving they're enough that they stop asking an equally important question. Is she right for me? Think about that for a second. When you're busy trying to earn acceptance, you stop evaluating compatibility. You stop noticing how she handles conflict, whether she's kind, whether she listens, whether your values actually fit together. Without realizing it, you hand all the power to the other person. And relationships rarely stay balanced when only one person feels they have something to prove. A healthy connection grows from curiosity, not auditions. You're learning about her. She's learning about you. Neither person should feel like they're standing in front of a judge waiting for a final score. There's a scene I remember vividly. A man in his early 40s was telling me about someone he'd recently started seeing. She was nearly 15 years younger. I keep waiting for her to realize I'm too old, he admitted. A week later, they were walking through a crowded street. He pointed toward a bookstore he'd loved since he was a teenager. She smiled. Let's go in. They spent almost 2 hours there, looking at old novels, laughing over strange book covers, talking about childhood memories. When they finally left, she looked at him and said something simple. I like who I am when I'm with you. He almost missed it, because he was still worrying about the number. Meanwhile, she had been paying attention to the feeling. It's remarkable how often fear points us toward one thing, while reality is quietly unfolding somewhere else. Of course, there are times when age differences create challenges that can't be ignored. Sometimes life paths simply don't line up. That doesn't mean someone failed. It means timing matters. Choices matter. Dreams matter. Accepting that truth can be painful, but it's also respectful. Neither person should abandon their deepest values just to make a relationship work. Real love isn't built on denial. It's built on honesty. There quotes one quiet behavior that influences how a woman thinks about your age more than almost anything we've talked about so far. Most men never notice they're doing it, and once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. It usually happens in the smallest moment, not during a candlelit dinner, Not while you're saying something unforgettable, just an ordinary moment. Maybe you're walking side by side, the conversation slows, neither of you feels the need to fill the silence. Cars pass, someone laughs in the distance, you keep walking. And without thinking, she glances at you. Not because you're speaking, because she's watching how you exist when nothing is happening. That tells her more than any clever line ever could. People reveal themselves in the spaces between the big moments. How they react when plans fall apart. How they handle disappointment. Whether they become defensive after a misunderstanding. Whether they can laugh at themselves. Whether they make room for another person's feelings without immediately making it about themselves. Those quiet behaviors become emotional evidence. Over time, they begin to outweigh assumptions, including assumptions about age. A woman may have entered your life believing an age gap could never work. Then she watches you stay calm during conflict. She notices that you don't disappear every time something feels vulnerable. You don't play games. You don't rush to win every disagreement. You apologize when you're wrong without acting as though it makes you weak. You also hold your boundaries without trying to control her. Something inside her begins to shift. Not all at once, slowly, almost invisibly. The number she noticed on the first day doesn't disappear. It simply stops being the loudest thing in the room. Something else becomes louder, your character. That's an important distinction. Character doesn't erase practical realities. It doesn't guarantee compatibility. It doesn't promise that every relationship will succeed. But character often gives people the confidence to explore a connection they might otherwise have dismissed too quickly. And that's all any real relationship ever asks for. An honest chance to be seen. There's another truth that many men discover later than they wish. Sometimes the age gap you fear exists only in your own mind. You assume she's comparing birthdays. Meanwhile, she's comparing experiences. She notices how you make decisions, how you treat people when there's nothing to gain, how you speak about your parents, your ex, your ambitions, your disappointments. Those things quietly answer questions she never needed to ask directly. Then there are the moments when she challenges you, not to embarrass you, to understand you. She disagrees. She asks a difficult question. She tells you something you didn't expect to hear. Your response matters. Not because you have to be perfect, because people often trust emotional steadiness more than perfect answers. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to impress her every day. You don't have to convince her that your age makes you worthy. Worth isn't something you negotiate into existence. It's something you carry. Quietly. Consistently. And yes, there will always be people who decide an age difference isn't right for them. That doesn't make them shallow. People are allowed to choose relationships that fit their hopes, responsibilities, and future plans. Respecting that is part of emotional maturity. But there will also be people who surprise themselves. People who begin with hesitation, then discover that what they thought mattered most wasn't what stayed in their heart. Months later, they don't remember the number first. They remember the conversation that made them feel understood. The evening they laughed until they lost track of time. The calm they felt sitting beside someone who wasn't pretending to be anyone else. Those memories become the story, not the age. So if you've spent years believing that one number tells a woman everything she needs to know about you, maybe it's time to ask a different question. Not, will she judge my age? But, when she remembers me months from now, what feeling will she remember first? Because in many relationships, that feeling becomes the answer that quietly speaks louder than any number ever could.